Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wisdom, Whiskey, and Wit, where leadership lessons meet great stories, a touch of humor, and of course, a glass of whiskey. I'm your host, Starsky, a teacher, a coach, a mentor, a lifelong learner, here to explore what makes a great leader great. On this first episode, we are going to explore Jack Daniel's Single Barrel. We're going to have a whiskey on every episode. I don't necessarily know where we're going to go with this. I am not a whiskey connoisseur, so I like whiskey. I'm not a snob about whiskey, but we're going to try a single barrel Jack Daniel's Select. Now, you'll notice the bottle's empty, so I kind of like this one. Like, I drink it. So I have another bottle back there if we end up filming this episode too many more times. I got to go to Jack Daniel's Distillery a couple years ago with my wife and her friend Amanda. I recommend that you guys go. I had a great time. Make sure that you get the bus tour where they drive you down there. Don't anybody getting a DUI in Tennessee. So, but you go there, you get to explore the history and everything like that. And then you get to do some taste testing, which I always encourage you to take people that don't drink whiskey with you. I did. My wife, her friend, do not drink whiskey. So therefore, not only did I get to drink mine, I got to drink theirs. So it's a win-win if you like whiskey. Totally recommend that. We got to go to, I do not remember the name of it, but there is a restaurant that makes everything with Jack Daniel's whiskey. The food was phenomenal. It was Southern food. It was great. They make this apple dessert, and it is basted in whiskey. It tastes phenomenal. But I will tell you, I thought I was almost going to get drunk off just eating the apples. It was quite good. But if you don't drink whiskey, if you are a rum drinker or a gin drinker or whatever it is, hot coffee, tea, Coke, a Diet Coke, a Mountain Dew, energy drink, whatever it is, just grab one. Let's have a drink and let's explore leadership. Oh, that's good. According to the website, the bottle's 94 proof, single barrel select, layering southern notes, caramel and spice with bright fruit notes and sweet aromas for a Tennessee whiskey with one-of-the-kind flavor. I like it. It's pretty good. Not too bad. Not too shabby. We'll have it on here. So, yeah, make sure you grab your glass and let's get started. On this first episode, also, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about myself, something I usually don't like to do, but I'm going to do it for the purposes of, one, archiving it, and two, so you guys know where this is all going and what it comes from. In future episodes, I plan on having leaders from different industries and stuff come in and explain where they came from and how they got where they got and what trials and tribulations or what, things did they not get that they thought they should have got, what promotions and stuff like that. So everybody can understand we're not in this alone. It happens to everybody. You just got to go with the punches. You got to keep grinding. Without further ado, I will introduce myself. I was born in Chicago, and then my dad got out of the military, went to Washington State, where he became a chief of police out there in a small town for a little while. And then he joined the Federal Bureau of Prisons, came back, and lived in multiple different states, moving about every 3 to 4 years across the country. I've lived on the East Coast, the West Coast. I've lived in the Midwest, so pretty much all over. I graduated high school from a small little school called East Central in Sandstone, Minnesota, where I had ambitions of playing in the NFL one day that were shattered when I couldn't even get into college to play football. So my family has a history of being in the military, so I joined the military to get out of that small town and to become what I've become. I served 20 years in the military, traveling all over. I did 3 tours in Iraq, tour in Cuba when that first started. I've been to Korea, Kuwait before the wars, all that. And then I finished out my career in Hawaii. So I was getting out and I was trying to figure, it's 2015. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life when I grew up. And so I knew at that time that I didn't want to necessarily be in law enforcement, but I had all these skills and how could I use them? So I went to this thing called Soldier for Life, and they told you that you haven't interviewed for anything for 20 years, so you might want to start doing interviews so that you can get the repetitions down so you can learn, which I thought was a good idea. So started applying for a bunch of loss prevention jobs all over the island of Oahu, which I got turned down a whole bunch of times. It was very defeating. So eventually I got the opportunity. I got an interview at Home Depot, which, by the way, Home Depot has a great military veterans program to help veterans get in. And I will tell you, a lot of their learning styles and stuff is just like the NCO and the officer learning. They break it down so simple. I found it very appealing to be in that organization as a veteran. So I started as loss prevention. I got the job because I could work weekends. So they had a lot of theft. I worked at store 1701 in Honolulu. Shout out to all you guys, phenomenal leaders out there. So I started my adventure with them doing that. And so they had a lot of theft in that store. And so guys worked 40 hours a week. And so they would work pretty much Monday through Thursday because they would always have cases that went over. And so they wouldn't be working Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So there was no coverage and people don't stop stealing. So they hired me. And so I worked on the weekends, usually like Friday after night and then Saturdays and Sundays while I was transitioning out of the military. So I did that. While doing that, so obviously being in the Army, you're very, very safety conscious. And so like I was pointing out safety issues that we had in the facility and in the store. And I got noticed by not only my boss, but some of the others in the district and stuff like that. And so I got asked what I was going to do when I got out of the military. And I was like, well, I really don't know. And they're like, have you ever thought about being a supervisor? And I was like, well, yeah, like I would. So I went to a bunch of courses that they had, like the pre-supervisor, the supervisor course, the pre-ASM course, all that stuff. I did that and I learned a lot. I learned a ton. When I got out of the military and finally transitioned, I started there as a special services supervisor. But what was weird is I just didn't do like returns in the special services. I did fulfillment and a lot of loss prevention stuff also because I had that operational mindset, which they hadn't had before. And so did phenomenal in that job, but I was asked to hold on and wait. But I'd been there about 1.5 years to get an actual management role. And so I found an opportunity with Sam's Club. And so they offered me a job and the pay was extremely better. So I went over there and joined Sam's Club in Pearl City. Once again, I joined an organization and I've been blessed, and not everybody's always blessed. That just had phenomenal leaders. Great organization. Worked there for about 1.5 years. About after my first year, we went through a restructure. And if you haven't been through a restructure, I pray you never have to go through one, but it's where they eliminate jobs and condense jobs and do those kind of things. And so I was luckily enough to be fortunate enough to keep my job in the restructure, but they gave me a whole bunch of other work to do. So not only did I do my loss prevention and compliance, I also had to do consumables and food. So not really my cup of tea. Think I did okay at it. I did it for about 6 months. You can ask my boss. Hopefully if my boss is listening there, Pete, you can tell me, you can write in the comments if I was any good at that stuff or not. But yeah, that's what I did. And it really wasn't my passion. I didn't particularly like it. I liked the other part of my job, but I just didn't like that part. And so I started looking. And so during that time frame, I found a great company called Noah Botanicals. It is a medical marijuana facility in Hawaii. You have to do seed to sale. So you run the grow along with the transportation and the retail facility or retail facilities. And so with that, I went and joined them. Great group of people there. Brian, the CEO at the time, phenomenal guy. He taught me a lot. Taught me how to write in corporate. That's what I will give him is kudos for writing investigations. I had always wrote investigations in the military, and then there's a different way in law enforcement than there is in corporate. Writing the state of Hawaii and explaining issues and stuff, there's a certain tone and a certain way to write those. He mentored me through that, and I'm grateful for that. And it's really helped me get further in my career by being able to write great reports for CEOs and executives. So to be honest, it wasn't my passion. I didn't like smelling like weed every day. It just wasn't my thing. Great people, great organization, but just wasn't my passion, and there was nowhere to really grow. I was the senior security guy there, security manager, and so there wasn't anywhere to grow. So I ended up joining an auto parts company called Napa. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of them. They're kind of a big deal. So I was the first loss prevention manager for Napa, Hawaii. So covered the Hawaiian Islands there. So that was a great opportunity. I got to work with some great people. Daryl, who was the GM out there, sat down with me and talked to me about how the industry works and how things go. He actually sent me to a class called, I believe it's called Leadership Works, which is out there in Hawaii. I still use that stuff today out there. They talk about circular people and linear people and how to communicate with them. And a lot of executives and stuff that come from the mainland that come to Hawaii go to that course to learn how to deal with different people. And so that was a phenomenal class. And Daryl was a great GM while I was out there. But I got noticed by the director of loss prevention for Napa Auto Parts, and I got promoted. I say this with a grain of salt. So I got promoted. I got more pay. I got a title, and I got to move from Honolulu, Hawaii to Chicago, Illinois. So let's pause for a sec. I lived a lot of my life. I lived in Minnesota. I agree. I understand the cold, but I had lived the last 9 years of my life on the island of Oahu, and it was quite a shock to come back to the cold. But they said it was a promotion. I don't think it was a promotion on the grounds of location. With that said, I love the group of people that I work with in the Midwest. The divisional team is by far the best in the company. Got a great group of guys and gals that just work together as a team. There, we try to kill everybody with our numbers, and that's what we do. So, great company there. So, and then now I get to this. So, Wisdom, Whiskey, and Wit, what is this? You know, it's my way of hopefully helping other people understand other leaders. And you don't always get it from your foxhole, and sometimes you need to see it from somebody else's. And so I want to be able to bring leaders onto this podcast and get them to, one, share their story and their trials and tribulations and how they got there, and then two, hear feedback from you guys and what you want to hear, what situations you're having, and hopefully I can help. But that's what this podcast is. It's about learning about leadership with a little bit of fun, a little bit of whiskey, hopefully some good jokes along the way. Also with that, I'm starting a group called 20th Horizon Alliance Group. What that group is for is I want to help young professionals, people getting out of the service. A lot of times in my current role, I see people that turn in resumes and their resumes are garbage. But I'm one of those leaders that I still call and talk to people. If you applied for the job, I call and talk to you. Like, you talk to them on the phone, and they're really, really phenomenal people. They just don't know how to put it together on paper. And then I've seen people that look phenomenal on paper, and I read their resume and I have a conversation with them about their resume, and then I bring them in, and then they just can't put it together. And so I started this group, and hopefully I have a group of people that are supporting me that will help people write resumes, that will help you negotiate your salary, that will help you through the interview process and get you prepared for it. And that's what that group and organization is. Much like Vertical Motion that I go, this is definitely not meant for executives. It's meant for people that are trying to get into management and people that are in management positions and want to get to senior management positions within their organizations or a different organization. But I just want to be able to help. And so that's what that's about. Now, you're probably asking why. How did this all come about? In 2003, I really had a traumatic incident that happened to me. I'm not going to go into depth or talk about it. That's not for this podcast at this time. But during that time frame, I joined a group in December 2023. I joined executive career accelerator group called Vertical Motion. It's by Tom Cox. You can see him on Instagram. He's on YouTube too, but he's got some really good reels on there for executives and stuff like that. And one of the things in his training is he talks about the Iggy, and you have to read this and you have to go through and find out what your passion is, right? And so trying to do that, what I found out my real passion is helping people. If it's helping you write your resume, or it's helping you with your interview, or it's helping you get something off your chest when I'm doing an interview for an investigation. My ultimate goal is to help the person, right? Obviously something went wrong or they need help getting to the next level. And so I just want to help people and share knowledge that I've gained along my path to get there. And so that's what all that is. But I will tell you that Vertical Motion group, the thing that got me the most is the people that are involved in it, and the people there. And there's a lot of good executives. You will probably see a lot of those people on this podcast because they come from different industries, different walks of life, and they have a unique way of looking at the world and at leadership and being authentic. And so I hope that you follow me on this journey as we look to do this. So what do we talk about here now? One of the things working through my Iggy that I found was an incident that happened to me. I think it was 2004, 2005. Can't fully remember. I don't know the date. I could probably look it up. But I had an interaction with Command Sergeant Major Generali of the 720th Military Police Battalion when I was downrange in my second tour. I had shown up. I came about 30 days later. I had to go to schooling for NCOs. I had to go to basic non-commissioned officer school. Back then is what it was called. And so I had to go to that course, and I ended up showing up to the deployment 30 days later. And so me and Sergeant Dugan, who was my platoon sergeant, were talking about the issues and stuff that had gone on while I was at school and stuff like that with my team. And like he was just back briefing me pretty much on what was going on. And I was like, all right. And we were talking about some issues. And then Sergeant Major Generali walks into the lanai where we're sitting drinking coffee, and I was chewing. So we're sitting there, and Sergeant Major sits down, and, you know, we talk, but like we're not talking at the same tone or what we're talking about. We're just talking in general. And I guess Sergeant Major had overheard us as he was walking in. And I don't know. It's funny because if you ever watched We Were Soldiers, Sergeant Major Plumley, if you know the reference, you know what I'm talking about. But Sergeant Major Generali was not a person of many words as a staff sergeant. Now, any of those in battalion staff might think different. But as a staff sergeant squad leader in the battalion, all I knew is that Sergeant Major would walk out of his office or something, and we'd be in the quad, and he would give you a look. And he didn't have to say anything to you or anything like that, but you knew something was wrong with what your troops were doing or whatever, and you needed to fix it. So, great guy, phenomenal leader. But he sat down, and he'd never really talked to me in any sorts. He asked me, he's like, Sergeant Smith, he's like, what are you chewing? It's like, Red Man Golden Blend, Sergeant Major. Like, it's like, can I get a pinch? And I was like, all right, sorry. So I pull it out of my car pocket and I throw it across to him, across the table. And he takes it and he opens it up and he's, you know, moving it around like most people do who chewing tobacco back then. And so he goes and he takes this huge pinch and he puts it in his lip. And I'm like, this guy just took like half my bag. I'm like, if this is going to be how the deployment's going to go, man, I'm going to have to get, like, I need an emergency resupply because I ain't got enough for me and him. So he puts a big chaw in, and I'm sitting there, and he throws me back my bag, and I put it in my cargo pocket where I got bubbles going on in my head. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, he just starts spitting knowledge. Just like, started talking about how every soldier, and I've kind of took this into the corporate world, like everybody has a combination like a safe. And so if you can figure out what that combination, what it is that drives that person to do what they do, you've unlocked it, right? And so you know how to motivate them to get done what needs to get done. And it's the same way from the military to the civilian world. If you know what's going to get something done, you do it. So if you got to leave a gift or say a sweet thing or just, ask how their day's going, like those things matter, and those are the things that unlock that code for you. And so he sat there and talked to us. I want to say for like 2 hours, he sat there and talked to us and just kept talking to us about how breaking the code, how you have to do it as a drill sergeant, how you have to do. And I've really it kind of fundamentally changed how I thought of leadership, because when I was coming up through the ranks, I thought everybody was like George S. Patton, just yelling and screaming at it. And that's probably kind of how I was as a team leader and a junior squad leader. But as I got seasoned, I figured out that yelling at people doesn't get anything done any quicker than figuring out their code and like, hey, we got to get this done. So I really took a lot from that conversation that we had and kind of put it together that, this is when I really found out that this is what I wanted to do in leadership is break down the code and just kind of be that Sergeant Major Generale that's just giving you knowledge and helping you along your journey. Because he really helped me on. One of the things, advice, people ask me for advice sometimes on leadership and in their journey. And I would say that you got to start with you. You have to look at yourself and is it your thing? Anybody can be a leader. You don't have to have a title to be a leader. You can be the guy that's loading trucks and still be a leader. You can be the counter guy at the store and still be a leader. You don't necessarily have to be the CEO or the executive vice president or the director of anything. You just have to lead from your foxhole, and people will follow you. I've seen so many times where people will follow somebody and they have no title at all, and that's what true leadership is. So I say start with you. And then I think what people misunderstand is that you have to be perfect every time. And as a leader, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make bad decisions. But like I've told countless people is that if you make a mistake and you own up to it, that's forgivable. Just don't make the same mistake twice. So learn from your mistake and grow, and I put it to this analogy has anybody seen anybody batting in baseball 1,000%? No, their numbers are actually pretty terrible. Like we think somebody's doing a good job if they're batting over 300, right? You're going to win some and you're going to lose some. So it's a journey, right? Leadership is a journey, not a destination. And I had an old first sergeant once tell me that there's two types of people in this world, and you're going to have both of them no matter what. Going to have critics and fans, right? And so there's always going to be critics on what you're doing or how you're doing it, but there's also going to be fans. And so you got to take both of them and just try to make sure you have more fans or the right fans on your journey to help you get through that. So those are always good things to know. So, but yeah, this journey that we are on together, I hope you continue and follow with me. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on LinkedIn, where I post pretty regularly my thoughts and stuff like that. I hope to see you in the near future with this. I would like to say special thanks to everyone that joined for the first episode of Wisdom, Whiskey, and Wit. If you enjoyed our time together, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, share the podcast with someone that you think may need it. All right. Until then, pour yourself a drink, reflect on your journey, and remember, Leadership is distilled, wisdom is shared, and stories are worth savoring. So cheers. Hope you guys have a great day. All right. See you next time.